ATS presents the Realty Debate, powered by Tata Capital, with Manisha Natarajan.
Everything.com is a big story today. However tiny it might be in actual size of business or big on losses. Well, real estate is no different. The first online portal in real estate which worked on a simple business model of making sure a huge number of homes, flats, apartments were listed on the website, so you, as a buyer, at least knew your options and could compare these, was 99 Acres. Guess when they started? Exactly a decade ago in 2005. Now, of course, as you fast forward, there are at least 24 or more websites which have come up, all claiming to be either unique in some way or solving a big unique problem. Welcome everyone to the Realty Debate, which will focus on 2015, the year gone by, the highs and lows of real estate going online, and what lies in store for them as we enter a new exciting year. With, of course, investors already seeming a little bit tempered. Joining me today is, of course, a who's who of this business, Dhruv Agarwala, co-founder of PropTiger.com. We also have Tanuj Shori, CEO and co-founder of Square Yards with us. From our Mumbai studio, Vikram Goyal, CEO of HDFC Realty, the absolute new player in the online space, of course, a biggie in the housing space. Manish Sinha, head Quicker Homes. Nayan Raheja, Executive Director, Raheja Developers, and Sameer Jasuja, Founder and MD of Prop Equity. So we couldn't have asked for a better panel. Let me tell you what are the three big questions I'm going to be asking this panel today. Have online portals really solved the problem of buying and selling property in India? I think that's the big answer that we need. Number two, has the business already lost its charm with investors? And number three, what's the way ahead for online portals if real estate industry or home sales do not pick up in 2016? Gentlemen, thanks very much for joining me. I think there's lots that we are going to show in terms of what's there in the online space as we go along. But first question to you, Dhruv. What's going on? I mean, 2015, sum it up for us. How has it been for the online portals, especially in an environment where business has been not that great?
I think it's been an exciting year, Manisha. We've seen a lot of new companies come into this space, on the rental side of the business, businesses which are trying to create broker exchanges, and multiple new startups. So I think in that sense, for the online real estate space, it's been very exciting. I think the folks who've been in business for a while, like ourselves and many others, I think continue to see the fact that search for property buying is increasingly moving online, will continue to move online. And despite being a tough year as such for the industry, I think folks who've already been in business are seeing their market share grow, which is great news. And as we look forward to the years ahead, when things do turn up for the sector as a whole, I think the online real estate industry will do even better.
Market share is growing. Tanuj, what do you think?
Definitely, actually, in any other market, whenever the market downturn happens, industry consolidation happens. This is what's happening and will continue to happen. Someone like us, and I'm sure Dhruv would be testament to the fact that probably our market shares grew significantly in individual capacity. Industry is moving from unorganized to organized space. What segment revenue share is being taken by the online classified players or the transactional players, that's another debate. But yes, definitely consolidation is there to stay.
Okay, so let us tell you what really happened in terms of developments in 2015. Overall, of course, the latest news which is making headlines is the Quicker Common Floor likely merger in a $200 million full equity swap deal. And of course, this entity may end up raising up to $150 million going ahead as well. So that's one big news which has, of course, hit everybody. Then there are other things which have happened. Quicker has also acquired Indian Realty Exchange IRX, a mobile-first aggregator of real estate agents for an undisclosed sum. And of course, also a street view mapping services called Wonobo. So Quicker has big ambitions. Now, 2015 also saw when PropTiger.com acquired online property listings and classified player Makaan.com for an undisclosed amount. And of course, Rupert Murdoch also led company News Corp also acquired a 25% stake in PropTiger for $30 million and upped its stake to 30%. More developments which will keep coming up on your screen. Manish Sinha, what's going on? So let me start with this whole game and story which is happening. the way I feel it, yes, the market will grow because it's a very tiny part of the whole real estate game just as yet. But the way I see it, it's kind of just serving one purpose, which is a search purpose for a home buyer. Is it really solving a problem?
Hey Manisha, thanks a lot for inviting me on your show first. I think some of the things that we are talking about are very natural progression of the move of the consumer online for pretty much everything. Nowadays we look for taxis online, we buy clothes online. Why wouldn't we buy, or at least research, apartments and homes and plots online? As a matter of fact, India is still materially behind the developed world in using the internet as its major initiation for real estate searches. I think we are still sub 50%, whereas America hit 95 or 100% in 2010. So I certainly think that there is significant growth ahead of us, not really behind us yet. And as we kind of look at what the consumer really wants, I mean, obviously they want a whole lot of things from the real estate solution environment. It is the biggest investment all of us make. Even today, when we are talking about the real estate class actually being a little bit subdued, we still have, for many, many households, more than 50% of their savings and their net worth sitting in real estate. So I really think right now is still the beginning. From a quicker standpoint, we actually have been seeing this segment of ours growing significantly, and that's when we said, hey, this seems like the right time to actually invest in solving this customer need. And here you go, we have quicker homes. Now, clearly, we certainly believe that you don't just solve the search problem. Obviously, you have to solve the search problem. If somebody is looking for a right house for themselves or a great investment, taking traffic and moving around in all our cities for 2 hours and then finding that they're only able to see 2 houses a day is really, really limiting. So I do think clearly.
Okay. No, so
They
I
have
get
to-
that. Manish, I get the fact that search and discovery itself is a big step and is a big start for the discovery in buying a house process. I'm only worried, and this is a
Manisha.
complete devil's advocate question, that why is everybody just chasing that very, very easy pie, which is search and discovery? Samir, come in here. I mean, according to me, it just seems to be too many
I think that's a
players.
little bit.
Okay, go ahead, Manish.
I think, Manisha, I was actually going to say that the first step is search and discovery. And as compared to the US, where the internet came after the MLS was there, search and discovery was always there. In our country, even today, no more than 25% of actual homes that want to be rented are hitting the internet. So search and discovery is a problem that has to be solved. Obviously, when we have folks like Square Yards and Prop Tiger on the show, on the segment that they fundamentally address, and I'm talking more about the builder segment, that has pretty much come on the internet. But the search and discovery for apartments for rent, for PGs, that is still very, very
got it.
in a nascent stage.
All right.
And
Okay.
therefore, the search and discovery problem is not solved yet. Then
I
there
get
is the
that.
other
I get that.
problem,
So,
Manisha,
so
of actually.
Manish, I think my question was a disconnect because I'm basically looking at the buying-selling problem today. I understand that from a rental, but from the point of view that you're looking to actually acquire common flow, which is now public knowledge, we're going to focus mostly on buy and sell today because that, according to me, seems to be a huge problem still when it comes to a buyer. Samir Jasuja, search and discovery, that's what's moved online. I mean, we will
Manisha,
go
still
back to
public
Tanuj
speculation, I
and
must
Dhruv.
say.
Everything else is still very, very offline. And is that a problem which can be resolved online? Can that really happen?
See, Manisha, I think, most of these internet businesses are being funded by venture capitalists. So let's just first try and understand why search and discovery has really been funded, because every VC looks at a very large market size and looks at scalability, looks at exponential growth. And that's where they see that happening first in the classified segment, because we all know now it's $1 billion plus market. And internet space has just about taken not even $50 million out of that till now, right?
Okay.
And globally, it has been seen that internet search and discovery happens more on the internet than the classified newspapers. So that's one market that they are gung-ho on, knowing fully now that the market hasn't expanded so fast as it should have. Given the technology, given it happened in the travel or the job space as it should have happened, like 99 acres has taken 10 years and still has reached 100 crore turnover. That's not very high, I would say, with that respect to that.
Why is that?
That's
Why is real
primarily,
estate taking so much more time?
I'll answer that question to you. That's a very good question. And the basic problem of search and discovery in India is that we don't have exclusivity in the market. So what happens is that it ends up being just a broker search website, because all the broker is putting in is some amount of real estate information. He holds the address or the address. So there's a lot of duplicacy. Address is not being shown. So there's a lot of duplicacy happening because the same property may be put by the broker many times through multiple brokers.
Right.
So really speaking, till the exclusivity problem is really not solved, the scalability on the classified segment is not going to happen that quickly. That's one. On the transaction side of the business, globally we have not seen internet companies really take on and become large players in that space. That predominantly continues to be an offline play. And if you look at it globally, brokers are mostly customers of internet websites and doing transactions offline. Yes, MLS has been there, but MLS was actually a broker tool and not a customer tool.
Okay.
It was creating transparency amongst the brokers, and MLS is only successful because there was exclusivity in the market. Seller went on and gave an exclusive mandate to a broker. That broker could easily then list that property anywhere, and there would be other brokers who would be contacting that broker through the MLS space, and the transaction would get concluded.
Okay. All right. Nayan Raheja, so are we to understand globally, because real estate, what's moved online is literally search and discovery and closing of the transaction. If it's not moved in the US online, then hey, how is it going to happen in India? Would you agree with that? That it's just a hard process to crack?
First of all, let me add a bit of information I want to update. In January around this year, Raheja developers sold about 500 apartments completely online with a startup called Book My House, where we were actually doing transactions online. Now, the important thing to note here is that we had 15 lakh rupee apartments and 20 lakh rupee apartments. And it was a government lottery project, and which was primarily the reason why people were able to sort of book online.
Okay.
But having said that, the real estate sale or transaction problem is a big one and a complex one, and you need to understand what kind of problems are we solving from the seller viewpoint, which is us, and from the buyer viewpoint, which is the client. So if you ask me, we pay lakhs and lakhs of money every month to a lot of these startups all around us for lead generation. But, ultimately, what it ends up when we start actually calculating, whether we got any bookings from that, it is extremely dismal. So, in my opinion, the whole lead generation platform and selling of leads and trading of leads, it's not really solving a problem for the developer community. And especially also because of the fact that, when I list my property, with a online company, and I'm putting a certain price on it, my broker is coming, he's putting a different price, then a third person comes, he puts in a third price, and at the end of the day, there's some guy who's coming in, who's putting a price which is not even existent in the markets, just so he can get all the leads to him. Which is sort of devaluing, our own property by listing it on these listing platforms. Okay. So that's not really helping us.
Right. We do know on what's the buyer view. We also know that there are multiple listings happening. So let me bring in Vikram Goyal here. Vikram, it seems that there is this company called Unnati Fortune, which basically gave all its inventory to a website, and then they became a listing website. Nayan has just talked about a listing website that they sold 500 apartments through. We have now your ibidmyhome.com, where you have Purvankara and Shobha selling all their inventory. What's really going on? Are we going to see a situation where you'll have every developer launching a listing classified site and probably their own internet model and just hoping to sell a project? I mean, how is this model going to work? Because I also hear on the other side from players like Realty Compass, 99 Acres, that when they pass on leads, developers sometimes don't even acknowledge them. They may close them 6 months later. They actually don't even give them credit that that lead has generated from 99 Acres. So there is a crisis of trust even when it comes to online business, isn't there?
Manisha, sure. First we need to figure out who are the stakeholders who are involved. So on one hand, we have customers. I'm sorry, I'll sort of take a longer route, but try and make it fast. So on one hand, we have customers who are wanting to buy, which is evident from the growth in sanctions of home loans which is happening. On the other hand, we have developers who've been really wanting to well and trying various models where they're trying to sell the property they have with them. And then we had, till about 5 years back, classifieds online like Magic Bricks and 99acres.com. Now what has happened is, in the last 2-3 years, because of a lot of e-commerce based portals like housing, like Common Floor and a couple of others, that suddenly the role of this .com now is a little sort of, I would say, blurred. So as long as they were doing online classified, they were collecting the leads, they were handing it over to developers, or they were working with brokers to conclude it, it was fine. But it's just that, on one hand, we have real estate in India, where we don't have a regulator. We have real estate as a state subject, which has multiple laws in each city. So customer who wants to buy a property exactly doesn't know what all documents he should be looking at before he buys a property. And to that extent, the role of this .com becomes very, very important. So I think, if you figure out what role they should be playing, will define where they would make their revenue from, and which would define eventually.
Why don't you answer that question, Vikram? I mean, globally, if they're saying that transaction is not the model, if it's search and discovery which is the model, but on search and discovery there seems to be a complete trust crisis or a lot of trust crisis, then how do you resolve that problem?
Normally a lot of us probably would look at the model which is prevalent in US, and there are these companies which are valued at multiple $1 billion. Now, one has to realize that, in US, a lot of market is actually, the resale or the rental market, whereas the risk of construction and the approvals and all those things probably don't apply that much, which is very, very different in India. We don't have a regulator, as I mentioned. There are a lot of transparency issues which we have. So to that extent, I think the use of technology cannot be denied. But at the same time, fulfillment of real estate or a property buying experience, which for most Indians is probably once in a lifetime experience, is the most emotionally and financially involved transaction they would ever do in their lives, cannot happen online. It can always start online. You can search on it, you can research on it, but eventually you need fulfillment to be done by individuals. You would like to go and see the location, you would like to see the construction quality, the cement which is lying there, the labor which is there, the cranes which are there, the neighborhood, the road, access, schools, hospital, colleges, before you eventually take a call. So I think there is a lot of screening which a .com can do.
Okay.
But apart from online sales in micro markets once in a while, largely I don't think is going to be a phenomenon going forward in the near future.
All right. So you're saying screening is the only process. Dhruv Agarwala, you're trying to actually stitch up the end-to-end transaction. A lot of you, honestly, were actually large institutional brokers who've decided to go online. So run me through that, thought process. What is it? Is it a valuation game if I go online, because you're still not being able to close any of your transactions? You've still got an army of salespeople there, which is closing transactions.
So Manisha, we were always online to begin with, because the only difference being that everybody else who calls themselves a pure online player, they were generating leads online and passing it on to either developers or third-party agents to close.
Okay.
And when we started, we generated leads ourselves, and we closed those leads on our own as a company. And we think because we did that, we were able to provide a world-class consumer experience, which is sorely missing in the market today. I think Vikram made a very interesting point that in the US, the reason why search and discovery is important and why the big companies have become big on the back of just search and discovery is because of regulations. Manish also mentioned that there's an MLS there, which is again another reason, and the fact that brokers are trained, they are licensed, they're held accountable. So for that reason, search and discovery platforms became big. In a country like India, where there is very little regulation, we keep talking about it, it's yet not happened. I think it's very important for a branded player to actually handhold the customer through the entire process. Again, as Vikram mentioned, it is a once in a lifetime purchase decision, highly emotionally charged, the biggest purchase decision you'll ever make in your life. And if you feel completely at sea doing that, I don't think the customer problem is being solved. So merely generating a lead by partially solving the search and discovery problem, and then handing the consumer over to some third party and not tracking what happens post that lead is handed over, I think is not solving a core problem. And that is why, in my opinion, that's the reason why these companies, despite being in the business for 10 years, haven't scaled up. I believe, from our perspective, the reason we acquired Makaan.com is there are two ends to this entire business. One is the demand aggregation piece, which at Prop Tiger we were limiting it to individual projects. Through Makaan.com, we are expanding and broadening it to the secondary market space along with the primary market space. And we're bringing on third-party sellers onto the platform itself.
Okay.
And as far as Prop Tiger is concerned, it is going to continue to be a seller, on the Makaan platform itself, and provide that branded service which consumers are looking for. And as long as we continue to do a good job of providing this branded service, I think as a company we'll grow. But I think for an online portal in India's context today, trying to be purely online without providing a hybrid service, I think it's a long road ahead.
It's a tough game. All right. Okay, gentlemen, hold your thought. We're going to come back. A quick break. We're, of course, on the year-ender 2015 special on real estate, online business, the highs and lows in 2015, and, of course, the way ahead. We'll be back in just a moment.